go to sleep, you know I gotta keep my eyes open. But I've been smoking, that's the reason why my eyes closed. I'm from a city where the sleepers never make it. Risk your life and they gon' take it. Have you stuck up in that time zone? Like I can't help but always think about that time gone. Too many people I done lost, I'm trying to find home. I'm from a city where the sleepers never make it. Risk your life and they gon' take it. Have you stuck up in that time zone? Can't go to sleep, you know I gotta keep my eyes open. But I've been smoking, that's the reason why my eyes closed. I'm from a city where them niggas leave you wide open. So if you move around, you know to keep that nine close.
Welcome, guys. Welcome, everybody, to LaceUp Podcast, episode 14, where we lace up or lay down. Lay down is not even an option, but I got my co-host here.
What's up, guys? Devin Donovan. We're here. Special guest.
Special guest. Devin's boy here. J-Mac. He got a great story. I can't wait to hear it. We followed him a little bit. Devin's told me a lot about him, but you're going to hear it from the horse's mouth today. And, very inspiring. So sit back and pay attention. Get your popcorn ready.
Yeah, get your popcorn ready. So, Jay, tell the people, not that you necessarily need this, but tell the people where they can find you on social media and, stuff like that.
Well, first of all, I want to thank both of you guys for having me. I've been watching a couple of you guys' episodes, and I know Devin personally, and it was nice to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But people can find me on Instagram at the Backstah. It's THE_BACKSTAH.
You'll have to tell us where that name came from. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's a story behind that, but
yeah, I can do it real quick actually. So I was telling Devin before we started recording. I started tagging when I was like 12, 13 years old. Just stupid shit. Just being a little rebellious kid. And skateboarding, tagging, boosting, all that stuff. And I had come up with a BA. When you get out of the shower and the mirror's foggy?
Yes.
As a good little, tagger when I was a kid, we would just write stuff. And I'd come up with a BA. And, I came up with a CK. I was like, the word back. So there's no meaning to it, but I started tagging it everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? And we're at Malden Station one day on the Orange Line. I'm about 15 years old. And my friend wrote on the bench, Badass City Kid. So it was an acronym. And I went, that's it.
That's it right there.
Just like being, like it was almost like embracing being a little punk kid. I got in a lot of trouble. And it's just stuck. And it's just, I've never even actually told that story out loud. A lot of people don't know that back is Badass City Kid.
That's awesome.
And the whole point of the Backstah is to just like finesse, or I guess stress out the Boston accent.
Yeah.
So the Backstah.
I like that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's almost like, it's part of your, it means something to you. That's all it, even with the tattoos, it's like, I love that. I love the artistic aspect and whatnot.
Well, and then you put it's like everybody, honestly, like for people that don't know, like I'm sure you do, but like any business I go to, anything, like I assume it's yours. You know what I mean? When I see the work, when I see the graffiti, when I see like the Rockland thing, he did that. That was sick. That was sick. And not oftentimes like you see like a face and personality behind the artwork, and that's what's awesome too.
Yeah, it's like listening to sports radio or something,
Yeah.
And then you're like, wait a minute, that guy fucking, that's the voice to the face.
It's funny you just said that with putting the face to the artwork, because a big chunk of the beginning of my, art career wasn't really artsy. It was actually just being a graffiti writer. I picked up a can of spray paint with my friend at like maybe 12, 13 years old. So that's like 92, 93. Yeah. No idea what we were doing. And the cool thing with how life is, and back then it was magazines and VHS tapes, right? So I'll never forget, a couple years later, we're about 14, I got my hands on a graffiti magazine and a VHS tape. And it was Graffiti TV, and I can honestly tell you that my fucking brain like exploded, because I was like, wait, we've been tagging and doing this stuff, not understanding that there's like whole culture to it.
Yeah, right.
And I remember it like it was yesterday. I was 14 years old, and I said, I want to be a famous graffiti writer. Yeah. And a lot of people looked at me like, that's a fucking pretty childish dream. Yeah. And I've been looked at and laughed upon, and people have said you can't do that, but hey, look at it now. I'm fucking 45, and I still am the big kid coloring still.
It's funny you say that. It hits home. Like I felt right away. Like I felt the type of way when you said, it was a child's dream and all these things. And just from my experience, like what you know. So it's like I think of my environment. I think of where I grew up and stuff like that. And because of that, like, it's human nature. I can, form a little resentment because, and I'm sure it's everywhere. I'm sure it is. You know what I mean? I can only speak on where I'm from, but it is, today I know what that is. I know, I learned that. I learned that through through the suffering and stuff like that, through my mistakes, and whether I wanted to learn or not, it was like it was worth it when I needed to get beat up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I go till the wheels fall off. I know a lot of us do.
Yeah.
And thank God we're still here to be able to see it in a different perspective or a different light. But as far as that, where people, for that to be a response, like it's especially as a kid, you feel like it's tough to, how do you not just like shrink down or shut down or be like, you need inspiration, you need motivation,
Absolutely.
you need encouragement and stuff like that. I feel like it has to come, individually from yourself. You have to find that, like, to be like, wait a minute, and not take it personal, but be like, maybe teach that person. Oh, wait a minute, like, why, you don't have any dreams, you don't have any goals, you don't have any aspirations,
Jay's big on
ambition.
that in groups.
It's funny because I just, I brought these guys, the shirts. It was all a dreams, obviously a famous Biggie line. And I'm really into hip hop. And the inspiration behind being a graffiti writer is, to be honest with you, I come from a drug addicted family.
Yeah.
My mom had me at 16 years old, right? I had a lot of freedom as a kid, and we moved around a lot. So I grew up on Section 8 and welfare, so no dad around. He was alive and could have been around, but wasn't. So I looked up to the wrong shit, just like a lot of our stories. I didn't really have many people in my family that I looked up to. I had people that I kind of looked at and didn't want to be like, if that makes sense, and I felt that young. I had a lot of freedom, and this is actually another funny story, looking back. I've said it on another interview years ago that was online. The first time I stole something, I was 8 years old. So that's 1988. Now, no one ever showed me how to steal, and it was whiteout. And I went behind the apartment building we were living in, and I fucking wrote my initials. How funny is that years, you know what I mean? That just my career as a graffiti writer. And I can honestly tell you that I was looking to create a name for myself because I didn't have a voice much at home.
Devin stole whiteout too, but he sniffed it.
Yo,
that's fucking hilarious. I literally,
my grandma would say, dude.
That's hilarious. Sniffing whiteout, dude. I stole, wrote my name, and it was actually a very selfish act if I look at it, because so I always grew up on the Orange Line. I mainly grew up on the outskirts of Boston. Malden, Medford, a little bit, only a couple years in Medford, and then lived in East Boston, Chelsea, Winthrop. I moved around so much, but Malden was a big chunk of my childhood.
Right.
It's a couple stops. And it's funny because I know you guys, the Charlestown background is, I never lived in Charlestown, but that's where I ran around and got high. And that's where I grew up doing trains, is the Redemption Center at Bunker Hill. There's still graffiti there. But they used to do business years ago with the freight trains. So my biggest thing with graffiti is I really liked creating a name that was mysterious. You know how he said, I'm always thinking it's Jay. See, I grew up being a graffiti writer, so you don't want no one to know who you are. That's a very small culture. So no one had a face to put with that. And we used to creep out at night and do all the trains down the Redemption Center. And the cool thing with that is you got the best of both worlds, because the commuter line goes by there and the Orange Line. So we'd do these pieces, and they'd stay there for a week or two, and then it ships out and it goes all across the country. So that was my first basically addiction before drugs, was tagging and creating these pieces overnight, and then it goes across the whole country.
Well, the creativity and like I say, the outlet, you may not know, like, that's what I learned. Like we were talking before we started recording, and I look back, writing is, I can write, but I can speak, and it was my outlet when I was in dark places, and it goes back all the way to when I was a kid, when I used to write sorry letters to my parents or whatever, more so my mother, because I was scared shit of her, but I'd write sorry letters, and like, I remember one day I was with, like, I was in counseling or something, I'm like, and the person made me think of it. I'm like, and they asked, what do you think you did that at 7 or 8 years old that you should have been ashamed of or felt guilt for? And I'm like, I don't know. They're like, exactly. There was nothing, but I felt whatever I felt, I'd write it down, and that was my outlet. And then when I was away, I look, and I'm like, in hindsight, I'm like, damn, bro, I've been doing this since I was a little kid, putting something down on paper, you know what I mean? And that being my outlet, but never harnessing it or being like, oh, wait, maybe. And then I'm like, to this day, I'm still like, all right, that's my passion, is I want I want to do something with. I want to, I feel like we all have that talent and like a God-given talent, and to be able to not only acknowledge it, do something with it, but it help people in turn. It's like you came full circle as far as like the graffiti goes.
It's funny you said the God-given. I get into like little debates with people. A lot of people will say, "Oh, if I could paint like that, I would do it too." That's a God-given talent. I'm here to tell you at 45 years old that when I picked up a can of spray paint or markers when I was a kid, I fucking sucked. I think it was a God-given passion to like to create.
Absolutely.
Right? And it started off as this, addictive feeling of tagging, and then it got crazier. I've painted spots when I was younger that if I fell, I'm dying. Yeah. Where my friends were like, "Bro, what do I do if you fall?" Call 911. He's like, "You said that so confidently." I go, "The fuck are you going to do? You have to call 911. I'm up on top of a billboard. The old Charleston Shoe Factory over there in Everett? Yeah. There used to be the billboard outside. I had some pieces up there. And I strongly feel like yes, it was God-given, my passion to create. I promise you it wasn't God-given, the talent. I've worked my whole fucking life, just like you as a writer, right? As a kid, you had a passion. Just like Devin said, I'm big on that. I'm really big on figuring out, like we just met, I bet we could talk for 2 more 100%. Hours, right? I'm a big people person, especially if you have some common passions and just topics, right?
Absolutely.
I love that. I think everyone can be creative. It's just a matter of tapping into what you like. And that's the biggest part of my recovery journey. Because if it was all about meetings and step work and all that shit, I promise you I would have been gone a long time ago. Yeah. To me, it's about building a life worth living. So when I get up, I do stuff most days I enjoy thoroughly.
Yeah.
Working out, being a dad. Imagine that. Kid didn't have a dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. You said you like writing. I like writing too. It's just we write different.
Yeah.
We can't rewrite our past. I just personally think the journey that we're on is like in recovery and whatnot, it helps you deal with your past better because you can't change it.
Yeah.
You can't change it, and I'm almost appreciative, just like you said. Bro, I got my ass beat as a kid. I moved around a lot, so I was the new kid. And I'm grateful for that now. Now, if you asked me that 20 years ago, I would have been resentful and wanting to run into people that beat my ass. Now, since then, I have run into people that gave me beatings.
Yeah.
And you know what I got more out of? Going up, shaking their hand and saying my full name.
Yeah.
Now, I know that might sound egotistical to some, like, "Oh, I was 4 times the size of the dude now."
Yeah.
And you're seeing a dude that beat your ass.
Yeah.
And he's stemming for money at Malden Station.
And there's something to be said, too, about the kid. We've all grown up with that kid and whatnot,
Yeah.
I never like to jump on the bandwagon where it's like, I never liked the whole, abusing someone, you know what I mean? Like, that's the pack fucking mentality. That shit never flew with me. But at the same time, I never spoke up. Be like, "Hey, leave him alone."
But I'm almost grateful for that.
Yeah,
to be
but
honest
that
with
kid,
you.
I tell you, that kid, be careful because they turn into fucking savages. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, if they can fucking.
I have a weird selective memory, and I remember being in group one time, and you're like, I'm with my wife, and I'm stuck in traffic, and this dude's beeping at me, and he cuts me off. It's like, bro, we could both get a new car right now. Like, what's up? Yo, Jade's the best. Like, the one-liners quick, dude. He's like, fucking, this ain't Planet Fitness, dude. I judge.
Yeah.
And like, honestly.
He brought that up the other day, and I was like, that's right. I remember saying that. And it's just being honest. They'll say, only God can judge. We don't judge around here. I'm going to keep it a fucking buck. My experience in 20 years in and out of meetings and programs, halfway houses. The most judgmental people on the planet, in my experience. Best part about experience, strength, and hope is when I share it, that's mine, and then we can relate. Some of the most judgmental people on the planet are in churches and meetings, but so are the most compassionate and loving. You just got to fucking seek the right ones out.
Yeah, no.
And that's just my experience.
No, I agree. And that's, to maneuver, I feel like the thing I learned that's been most beneficial, and there's work to be done with it, because like I'm like, oh, once I find the answer, I'm like, like it's an aha moment, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I got to do something about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I just solved the fucking the puzzle, but you're right. Like it all depends individually how I'm feeling, because I can go into those meetings, I can go into church, and based on how I'm feeling, nothing can bother me, and I can be like, hey, like how are you? And feel confident and good. And like I leave there feeling excellent, or I can go in there and like something is bothering me, and I'm like, this motherfucker again. Now I'm like, I'm like,
no, something you had said that made me think of it is like when people are like, oh, God-given talent, like, which it is to an extent, right? But you tapped into that power and you worked very hard and you still continue to work hard. It's like it made me think of when people are like, oh, it must be nice, right? It's like, dude, we come from nothing. Like, it must be nice. Like, anything we have, like, chances are we work pretty hard for it. Like, and you could too. But that mentality is like,
Yeah, that's
it's like,
to me that's that. Well, people say that right away.
Yeah.
That's like a.
It's a victim mentality
it's
statement.
not appealing whatsoever. Like you actually like.
yes.
Like someone that talks like that, must be nice. It's like right away, like it's like, dude, like I said, you just showed me your cards,
Yes.
bro. You know what I mean?
Yes.
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 You know, you're the only one playing poker here, bro. You know what I mean?
It minimizes the hard work. I'll give
Yeah.
you an example. My whole life, I'm 45 years old now. My whole life, one of my biggest dreams was to own a house. I can tell you that the only disrespectful response came by me in my own head that was like, you can't do that. I was overwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
I did that this summer. I finally bought a house, got my credit up. Like, when people say must be nice, I've been saying it for a while. I don't trust people that talk like that, and they're also minimizing your hard work.
Yes.
It's like I've grinded my whole fucking life at my art career, and now at this point to be a person of long-term recovery who once had a lot of time before, and I relapsed. I don't know if you guys ever experienced that, and I hope you don't, because it's fucking devastating when you realize you just gave away all your hard work, and it took me fucking 2-3 years to get it back. That I set out on a personal journey, and in 2016, on November 2nd, a good friend of mine, Greg King, passed away. I mention his name almost every time that I speak or do a podcast. He's in my wallet with me right now, his card, and I might even get emotional because he never gave up on me, dude. And he used to come to the barber shop and he'd say, Jay, we miss you at the men's meeting. Anyone that knew me from before, there was a men's meeting. That was my home group. I went to it all the time. And I never forgot that. But the sad part is when I finally made it back, he wasn't there to welcome me. And I spoke about him at one fucking day clean, guys. One day clean, cold turkey. I don't recommend it, but it's doable. That's how my opinion and experience is. Recovery is so powerful if you have the right people that I didn't need treatment again. I didn't even need detox. And I walked back in and I made it a personal journey. I said, I'm not going to look back. And it took hard work. And I remember the ego going, but you have one day. Yeah. You had 8 years. And shout out to my friend Chris. He's, my best friend to this day. He said, Jay, you got to stop worrying about not having the time anymore and realize what you do have that you will never lose. Right. It's the knowledge and the experience that you had before. And I try to shed that light on a lot of people because a lot of us have come from an up and down background, right? And that, like we just said, and I can say it, we can almost both say it joking like we just did, the beatings, the fucking in and out of the system young, the not having a dad, the all this stuff. I'm literally grateful for it now because it built character. Yeah. That actually taught me to be tough. Getting a beating taught me how to defend myself. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the game changer when you can one of the first things I learned, like the gratefulness. It's like I would have liked to, I grew up I got a pretty good vocabulary. I knew what I've heard the word grateful. I could tell you maybe give you I could spin it this. Oh yeah, you're appreciative of things, right? Mm. Until I felt it, right? That's when I was like, whoa, okay, right? And to be able to do that like that right there was huge for me. That was huge relief. I was
I got Marco say it all the time. Stay grateful, and I stay grateful.
So I have it tatted on my hands, and then I also share probably the most devastating tattoo to look down and read when you had relapsed. Yeah. Clearly, I stopped staying grateful. Yeah. And to me, gratitude's an action word. If you say you love me, I'm kind of more like, this is where judgment comes in. When people say it just to say it, I'm in my head judging them. Like, if you love someone, you show them. Yeah. Like when I'm like, if I was like, I love you, you'd probably hear from me regularly. What up, Joe? What up, Devin? Yeah. Right? Like I check in on my people. You don't have to give me nothing. I just want to know how the fuck you're actually doing. Yeah. That's love. Being grateful, right, is, to me, it's an action word in the sense that I used to be the guy that's like, yeah, I'm Jay, I'm an addict. Grateful to be here, grateful to be clean. I still talk like that if I go to a fellowship meeting, a 12-step fellowship, but I mean it. Of course. And you see it in little acts of kindness and how I operate throughout the day. Correct. I'm grateful for a fucking roof over my head. Yeah. It's now finally my roof, but I've been in halfway houses, detox, a holding cell, this, that, and was extremely ungrateful. Yeah.
Well, you said the word too. You said, overwhelmed. I think that's part of. I don't like to pigeonhole it into just alcoholism because that's something that I like to try to challenge myself, and sometimes that can feel like an excuse to me. I try to make sense of things, but then at the same time, depending on how I'm feeling, I can run with it and be like, I'm overwhelmed. All right, well, join the fucking club, Joe. Absolutely. You know what I mean?
Listen, I'm old school like that too. I'm very big on some people battle whether, like, if you say it's a disease, some people are against that. Yeah. Some people say alcoholism. Some people say addiction. I just posted this the other day, and I've been real big on this the last, like, almost year. Alcoholism, addiction, disease. All I know is I'm wired with something that with 8 years talking to you guys right now, I have a negative voice that's always chirping. And it always has to be addressed. And it doesn't fucking matter how much time or how much knowledge I have. It's always about what work are you doing today. And all that shit is separated through language. I know people that think they're bigger than fucking anybody because they have this much time in AA. And then guys like this in NA and whatever. Yeah. It's all language, dude. We're all fucking human. And I'm trying to live a positive life. Yeah. And here's the beautiful part about this. I might have this negative voice that chirps with my voice. I'm the most disrespectful dude that's ever existed in my life.
No one can fucking treat you worse than you can treat yourself.
And it's which one are you feeding? Because the recovery voice talks in my voice too. Yeah. You know, so which one do you feed? To me, it's doing like stuff like this. It's being a dad. It's going to the gym every day, even though when my mind says you should roll over. You can do what you want today, which is true. Yeah. But I've always regretted the ones that I don't take. I've never regretted a workout. I've regretted the ones I pass up.
Absolutely.
You know, I still run group. I work in treatment because I care. And you know what the cool thing with that is? I did my graffiti and I helped addicts in recovery for years for free. It just so happens that my career has taken me down a path where I get to do both of those and get paid for it now. I even teach art therapy at the treatment center. It's not about being an artist. With me, art therapy, and no one showed me how to do this. I just took a passion as an artist and a passion in recovery. And when people would say, if I could paint like you, I'd do it. I've had clients say that, and I go, I'm going to call bullshit, and I'm going to defend this. And they'll kind of look at me like almost sideways, like, did you just say what I said is bullshit? I go, let me explain, though. Yeah. I sucked as a kid. I could not draw portraits. I could not draw faces. I could not do any of that stuff. That is something I dedicated myself to, and I worked for it, and I didn't wish for it. You know, like the saying goes, work for it. You know, don't wish for it, work for it.
Yeah.
If we wish for it, it's like pitching a quarter into a well, right? You're putting it in someone else's hands. Yeah. I'm hoping for a better life. I hope, I wish, I did. Fuck that. We work for it, and you put it in your hands.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you can go after
it. And I needed even, no coincidences, even you just sitting here today, you know what I mean? I do believe, like, you know, when I'm not, by default, when I'm not in, like, it's not even like you know, victim mode or just like self-loathing or just, how about this, like, feeling tired, right? Because like my head, I'll tell myself, you know, me and Devin talk like, oh, I'm exhausted, right? And it's like almost like, all right, well, yeah, because you need proper sleep or this, that, the other thing, right? You've been going till you kind of crash, and like
balance is hard, man.
Balance is it's very difficult. You know, I struggle with it, you know, to this day, but like yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, I think too, Jay, like another, and you made me think about this, another reason like why like I look up to you and it's so motivational is because like we come from a similar background with the addicted parents and not much of a role model, and like I was always like that guy that like, you know, I thought it was like I was like, you know, I'd walk into a meeting and like, you know, say you got like a 50-year-old guy that, you know, he's got the career, he's got the house, and he's just having problems with his wife, and it's like then there's me who 17, 18 years old, like strung out on heroin, and it's like, I don't have nothing, dude. I've never even like, I don't even know what it's like to be an adult or be a father. Like a lot of things weren't even imaginable. And it makes me think of like, when you talk about like, I was, you know, however old you were, like 18, 20 years old with, you know, you had a bottle of spray paint and track marks and that's all you had, you know, and I know that's like, you know, it's sad to say, but like it's look at where you're at now, and it's like it's an unbelievable thing. Really
it's funny you said that because it's a crossroads. I started off with, you know, kind of like lashing out, so to speak, and being rebellious, doing, you know, crimes. Because then to get paint, I stole back then, and like you said, track marks in a can of paint. And the beautiful part about that is the can of paint helped me save my life. Because where I'm at today, I'm extremely passionate about artwork and recovery. And anyone that knows me, shit, even people that just meet me, you'll learn within 10 minutes if we have an actual conversation. Because I don't like wasting conversations on dumb shit. Yeah. You know, like some of the stuff we were kind of all like
surface level shit. Yeah.
But some of the stuff we were talking about before we even started recording is like life stuff, and I deal with that with people that I know outside of here, right? But this passionate type of stuff, you talking about coming to a meeting at 17 and 18. bro, our fucking brains are still like developing at that age, right? So we've now just put opiates and God knows what, and alcohol and fucking street life and just dumb shit, right, in my head. And I came in at 23, so I was a little bit older than that. Yeah. I didn't know my ass from my elbow as far as recovery, but I can honestly say that I knew I was not going to ever stop doing the artwork. Yeah. You know, because it went from graffiti got me in a lot of trouble, a lot of chase stories, a lot of
that's what I was gonna. I was gonna ask you about that. You know, I'm sure there's been some. I'm sure you've got jammed up with that shit, right?
Yeah, and so the thing that's wild with it is in 1995 they switched graffiti to a felony.
Yeah.
So in 8th grade they actually put that in the middle school, and obviously everyone was like, "Oh, you're gonna get fucked." They were all my friends because they knew I was out tagging, and that didn't scare me.
They were getting like subpoenas with grand juries.
Yeah, well, dude, people. People were getting raided.
Yeah, they're wearing wires on Jay. They're like, "Hey, where were you last night?"
Yeah, it's wild to think about that happening with the act of graffiti, because some people just look at it, they're like, "Oh, that's whatever," but Boston, especially back in the day, they had the Vandal Squad.
Yeah, right.
So it was a task force. I always joked and said it was the cops that couldn't be detectives. So now you're chasing kids that are tagging, But they did not fuck around. I was in and out of the system at 15. I got caught doing which was fucked up because I did not get caught red-handed, and this shit's so long ago, so I don't give a shit about talking about it. But I got summons for painting a fucking Green Line train in Cleveland Circle, and it came to my father was gonna beat my ass because. I shared that my father wasn't really around, but in high school I had to move in with him to go to a certain high school. Yeah. And he was like, "You motherfucker, I got caught for doing Green Line train." They sentenced me to, I got, because I was so young, 1,500 hours of community service, right? And I didn't know if I was going to mention this, but I guess I will, because it's the one good deed I can remember that my dad did do in my life. Judge asked me, I'm 15 years old. I think his name was Judge Kavanaugh out of Malden. "Do you regret doing this?" He's giving me the whole spiel. Bro, you want to talk about a punk-ass kid? You know what my response was at 15 years old? He's like, "Would you do this again?" And this is how passionate I was about graffiti, but idiotic to say this to a judge. "If you had the chance to do this over, would you change anything?" "Absolutely not," I say. Judge literally goes, "Mr. McDonald needs to be taught a lesson. I think he should go rest of his time till he's 18 to DYS." Now my dad jumps up in court. "Your Honor." The fucking judge is looking at my dad's like trying to speak up. "Who is this? It's my son." And he says, looking back, it's kind of fucked up. He blamed it all on my mom. Yeah. He literally goes, he's 15. He just started living with me, which is true.
I was quick thinking though.
Yeah. He goes, "Your Honor, he's only lived with me for 2 months." He grew up in a very fucking dysfunctional household. His mom, he's putting all the blame on her, right? Here's the truth of the matter. I smoked weed at the time with my dad. Yeah. He let me have girls stay over. And I honestly believe I did get the gift to gab from my dad, those genes. Yeah. Like my dad,
we get the good
he's a good talker.
We get the bad and the good and vice versa.
I got my mother's aggression, absolute lunatic. I got that, but I've honed that. And my dad can talk. And I always look at it like this. I turn my mother's aggression into passion. I'm more of a passion individual.
Yes.
And my dad had the gift to gab, but he finagled it and didn't. His audio didn't match his visual.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm more
manipulation,
So, but he stood up, and the fucking judge, literally, and I had no idea until after we left. He's like, "You fucking dumbass! You almost got sentenced to DYS for another 3 years." Yeah. So that's one good deed that I look back. I can honestly say,
that's why you don't fucking open your mouth in court.
Yeah. I learned real quick. I was like, "Wow, what a punk ass kid." But the truth of the matter is that did not stop me. Yes, I did my community service hours. I've always stayed tagging at that age. And the reason why I say tagging is I wasn't doing the murals I do now, the portraits. I wanted to do that stuff. I stayed getting in trouble. There was something mysterious about constantly doing it and being able to possibly get in trouble.
Yeah. Of course. So, like adrenaline junkie, we like that.
That rush.
Yeah, of course.
And that happened even more so getting into recovery because, think about it. We're putting the drugs and alcohol down, right? And basically what we were doing was chasing dopamine hits.
Yeah.
I was able to do that illegally in recovery. I got judged a lot. Like when I joke with him and say, "Oh, I judge. This ain't Planet Fitness." It's also a defense. I'm going to judge you, dude, whether you're going to fucking come to my house with my son and my wife are. it's going to be based on judgment, bro. If you look like you move accordingly and a stand-up dude, and I can trust you, yeah, and it took judgment. I know what they mean, like in meetings, you come in broken, we don't judge. I get that. But let's be fucking real. I'm the most judgmental dude in my own life.
Right.
So I can't expect y'all to know
I think
judgment.
too, with as far as that goes, you know, you put down the drink, the drug, you know, like when it comes to sobriety and stuff like that, let alone recovery, the one thing that like I've always held on to is like, you know, the morals, values, and principles that were instilled, maybe started at home, but then even as we learned along the way, like where my decision making is, all right, we've already, that's been proven, right? Like my mind's unreliable, my thinking, right? Unless I do something about it, right? And I've been taught that. Now I have options when I wake up. But, you know, yeah, and I make bad choices, right? If it's left to my own devices, right? If I don't just like fall in line and like, you know, truly just try to just be a person and not try to, you know what I mean, run the show, you know, because I'll run into the ground. Absolutely. But one thing that I always said is like, not everything that I like, I still have beliefs. Like I still, you know, there's certain things just because I put down a drink or a drug or that I'm trying to change like the whole trajectory of my life based on my thinking and stuff like that. And it does work, is that I still feel the way I feel about certain things. Like, you know, I'm not going to be okay with, because this person, put it this way, anything I did under the influence, I did, right? It's not an excuse. And you know, I know that's, people are big with excuses, right? And it just doesn't work for me, because like, I know that when I make excuses for myself, that I suffer, and like, I just don't, I can't respect it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I have to know that it's there and like acknowledge it and stuff. But, like you said, you know, it's just, that doesn't change. I can be compassionate. I was all those things before, right? Ultimately, I have to be empathetic and compassionate towards myself. I missed that memo. I missed that fucking, you know,
That's a huge...
If I can do that, like, I've already proven, dude, you know what I mean? Through people pleasing, through codependency, through whatever, right? But like to do it in a not like authentic way and like genuine way, and actually fucking give the people what they need or want, or especially your family, you know, because that's like, we take that for granted a lot of the time.
You just mentioned a huge piece that a lot of people definitely overlook. People will get clean, they'll get in recovery, come out of jail, out of treatment, whatever, and start apologizing to people they hurt. I guess this is going to come off as a selfish angle as an addict, but it's a big piece that I overlook, so I'm assuming some other people did. It took me a while to start apologizing to myself and accepting, like, dude, this happened, you know, and to a certain extent, yes, I would never do that shit off of drugs. It's not an excuse, but it is what happened. You know, if I'm strung out on dope, I'm probably bullshitting my grandfather for 50 spot, right? Yeah. If I'm strung out on drugs, I'm probably keeping a car running, grabbing some shit out of a store and leave. That stuff gives me anxiety to think of if I had to do that today.
Absolutely.
Overdosing at 21 bothers me and can get me emotional, and I've said it in group numerous times and started to get emotional, that I almost lost my life at 21 years old, dude. And I feel like I'm just fucking scratching the surface at 45.
Right.
Respectfully, I've done a lot of shit in life, a lot of negative shit, a shit ton of positive stuff. And my friend Chris used to always say, and I joke, I go, you're always saying we're just getting it started, you know? And I realized it's a very humble approach to life. Because I'd look at him and go, bro, when the fuck are we getting it popping? Because he'd go, we're just getting it we're just scratching the surface. And it's a cool way to look at life, because it kind of humbles you. You know, some people get misconstrued too. Like, humble doesn't mean like be quiet and be like timid. It's like, be you. You can be humble and be you, right? Like, I'm real big on, if you're a fucking ball of sunshine, dog, if someone needs sunglasses to be around you, then so be it. But being humble is just being you, being true, without putting people down. Do you know what I mean?
Who used to say that? And Mike from the North End.
Oh yeah.
From you know Mike, Italian Mike from the North End.
I probably do.
And he's old school, but he used to say humility. He's like, you know, being humble is not thinking of yourself less, but thinking less of yourself. Not thinking of yourself as who you think you are, but who you truly are. You know?
No, of course.
So when he'd say that, I'm like, damn, bro, you know.
When you are true to yourself, which recovery 100% through the journey of that, working on self, insecurity, all that stuff. When you are who you say you are, that's a good feeling. So when you're around other people that carry themselves like that, real ones know who the fuck real ones are when you're around them. Let's be real. When it's like authentic and we can talk about feelings or like real stuff.
Just flows. Yeah,
it just flows, and like that's just authentically being who you are. You don't have to dim it, and if anything, that's how you truly find out who your people are. It's got to come through truth. You know, and that's a big part of recovery. Connection, truth, transparency, connection. That whole connection piece is like what's literally kept me enjoying that journey. Because like I told you, if it was about just showing up to a meeting, do I still go to some here and there? Sure.
Of course.
But that's not everything. What's always been there for me through the ups, the downs, all of it is people. Yeah. You got to find the right ones. Yeah. And that sometimes has changed over time. Absolutely. You know, because sometimes I've met some people where I'm like, damn, I wish I knew you, this whole time.
Absolutely.
But then there's also some people that, A1 day one to me. A1 day one don't mean from day one like you were fucking 5. Yeah. It means from the day you met them, they were like that. Yeah. So I know some solid ones I've known for a couple months. Absolutely. And I know some solid ones I've known for 25 years. Yeah. And typically what that bond is, they've always stayed true through the ups and downs. I got to admit, was I a shitbag at some point in life? Sure. Right. I was almost too good at that. Yeah. And then when you own that, you realize, God damn, we're wired. Like, I'm wired in a way that, up here is not always, it's not always clear, and I can talk negatively. I know we're circling back, but I guess that's just the truth of like, I've never met anyone that didn't live outside of this. Yeah. It's always this section spot, basically, give or take, between
especially
fucking
in this day and age, there's just so much going on. You know what I mean? Like it can make your head spin. There's
Absolutely.
a lot of we already have the noise up there, but even to try to quiet it, there's with everything's what's the word? It's just heightened. Your senses and
absolutely.
Well, sensory overload, and we were kind of touching on it before with social media, and I definitely a big social media guy. The flip side of that is it's like a part of how I run my business.
Right.
Word of mouth. Social media, likes, follow, everyone's scrolling, TikTok, this, that. At the end of the day, the thing that gives me the greatest purpose has nothing to do with the phone. Meaning it's this.
Of course.
We're recording and people are going to see this, but the world needs to see unfiltered conversations.
I agree.
Right? And you put it out there and it gained traction. I was telling Devin, so we had a podcast going on. It was somebody's podcast. My friend Chris started it. And you want to talk about the power of real unfiltered conversation. I also can't be on a fucking platform where I can't swear because I have like a trucker's mouth, and I don't like to have to think too much. And not that it's about sitting there swearing, but you know what I'm saying? That's like truly unfiltered. Yeah. And I was sharing with Devin before we started. When we did the podcast, it was slow momentum. It stresses you out sometimes when you're starting off something, right? But if you stay true to yourself, it's going to take off organically the way it's supposed to.
Absolutely.
And we have experience doing that. And I'll never forget, a kid, Mickey, reached out to me from Australia. And he said, hey, man, after hearing you speak, I never thought that I'd ever hear of another graffiti writer. And he goes, what he means by that is
you do it in an Australian accent.
Good day, mate. Good day. So he's
I'm down under.
He goes, another graffiti writer that really like illegally grew up doing like actual graffiti.
Yeah,
not the street art. That was a name that basically made graffiti sound more likable. And he said, I had 6 years clean. I relapsed and I've not been able to get the time back. And after hearing that podcast and you sharing that, artwork kind of saved your life and now you're back on track, I'm just reaching out because it really saved my life. And I'm basically saying that to bring it up to you guys because by staying true to yourself and talking about the things you guys have been talking about and having it be kind of a wide variety of topics, which is cool, it's going to take off the way it's supposed to. And more importantly, who gives a fuck if it doesn't take off in a way that you're thinking it should in the beginning? Yeah. That's not what the purpose is. Yeah. And a few months back, someone had also reached out and it brought a tear to my eye. I'm doing my morning routine and I check this other Instagram I had before for the podcast. And the dude said, I just need to let you know that somebody's podcast saved me from suicide. Wow. So the reason I'm saying that to you guys is I've watched some of you guys' episodes and you guys have guests on and there's someone out there that needs to hear about the jail stuff because they're so fucking institutionalized. Yeah. And they need to hear of a guy that made it out and fucking started a podcast, changed their life around. They're a fucking dad now. Yeah. Did we do some loser ass shit back in the day? Sure. Yeah. It gives you fucking character now. Yeah. Let's not brag about it. To me, that's bragging backwards. Yeah. So it's not about bragging about.
We never want to convey like that we're glorifying any fucking.
But the thing is bragging about what the fuck you're doing now. Yeah. And that's what I've seen some guys do.
About it.
And we got to hang around people where when we tell our success stories that don't come off like bragging.
Yeah.
To me, those are people that want to see you level up.
Absolutely.
And like we were joking about before, I'm real big on getting to the inner values and what people are driven by, right? Because when we start to get into like War Story or the addictive past and all that stuff, yeah, we could talk for probably 3 more hours about war stories.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's whatever. And sometimes that does happen as guys, but it's not like a one-upper. You just kind of relate it. But I'm more interested in where people want to go.
Yeah.
What goals
What are you
scare
trying
you?
to do?
What scares you?
Right.
You're like, another guy talking about what scares him? Yeah, but in a healthy way. And what I mean by that is, what goal overwhelms you? And sometimes guys go, being a dad. I haven't seen my kids in 4 years. Starting a business. I'm sick of working for people. Whatever it is. And then you talk with them, and you know who usually shoots down the biggest dreams that people have?
Yeah.
Themselves.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm real big on, don't say can around me. And I mean that positively and I guess negatively. Like, don't tell me I can't do it. That means you think you can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm real big on that shit because I've accomplished some shit that was very hard to fucking get through, man. It really was. Yeah. Like tooth and nail, bro. I was a fucking barber for years and I wanted to get away from that because it was all cash.
Yeah.
And at the time, 2018, I was in a previous relationship and her family was starting a marine construction company in Florida. Bro, I got up and moved down to Florida. Everyone was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I stopped working in treatment and I stopped being a barber. And I can honestly tell you that from 2018 to 2020 as a fucking man, it tested me mentally in ways that I wanted to give up. You know, I almost like drank down there. Not almost like it was near me, but almost like I was definitely battling. The relationship started to suck. And I can tell you guys that I went down there not even knowing what certain tools were in the shed to go get.
Yeah.
And by the 2-year mark, when I decided to ultimately change and leave that alone, I was running heavy machinery, driving a barge, doing stuff underwater, building, right? And I said, if in 2 years, and this is where someone needs to hear this shit, if in 2 years just my work ethic and not wanting to suck, because as a man your ego kicks in, I was like, I'm not going to stay sucking. Like, I'm going to fucking, I'm going to work on this. I said, if that's what I did with something I didn't like to do, what the fuck am I going to do if I go back into my passions?
Yeah.
And that's where, during the pandemic in 2020, I got back into working in treatment, and I went full steam ahead with my artwork like I had never done before. You know, and that's basically...
it shows in your work. I mean, the Rockland, shout out to Rockland. That's our
shout out to Rockland. Shout out to the Process Recovery Center, man.
Yeah, Eddie was huge on that one. I'm good friends with Matt Ganem. Like, shout out to Matt too, and I think that's how.
He's gonna be on here.
Well, I think that'd be great to have him on. I think that was how I ended up being introduced to Eddie. My favorite thing is that I'm at a point in life now where people, if I talk with them, like the way I book these jobs, right? And this, I never even talked about this online either, but I kind of knew if I came on to talk to you guys, I was going to give you all some stuff that I don't really talk about much, is that I like to get on a phone call with people and kind of, so they can hear my voice and how into it is that what I do. Yeah. And he kind of gave me creative freedom. You know, his place is a nice place and sent me some pictures of it. And I said, cool, I got you. I want to do some realistic flowers, cursive lettering. Obviously, there's a graffiti edge to it. And I'm extremely grateful that I'm able to fucking do that to make a living now. Yeah. Like, I get to paint what I would do on a train back in the day illegally.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not a recovery name and flowers, but I would do these pieces because everything in me wants to create and give to the world as far as artwork. And, you know, I'm real big on hip hop. I grew up, it was all a dream thing, right? To go to that real quick is I would tag and it would just kind of be this senseless stuff. You just tag and a tag. Now there's a purpose behind it where I like doing positive messages, you know, in Nashua, New Hampshire, which is where I reside now. I reached out to the city when I first moved there, and I said, I want permission to do this wall. And they were like, how much money are you looking to get? I said, no, they're like, well, we don't usually have artists hit us up wanting to do a mural for free. I go, well, I make money doing murals, but I want to give back to the city. So there's a huge mural that's been there since 2021 that says, be grateful.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, and
that must feel good to drive by there.
I was going to ask you, what are some of your most fulfilling or memorable pieces?
Yeah, and also, are there any that are still out there that like never go, you know what I mean, like from back in the day? That you know.
What a good segue. So I've only posted this one, maybe two other times, but it's not really the background story. So, and it's kind of cool. It's 21 years old, and like I said, I don't mind sharing this shit because of how old this is. But when the Red Sox had come back and beat the Yankees 4 games straight back in 2004, I'm in a sober house, not so sober. I'm 24 years old, and I'm drinking on the weekends, getting away with it, which is funny that I even just said that because I tell clients all the time, you don't get away with it. We know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, but I'm getting away with drinking on the weekends, right?
Right.
Now, the Red Sox just make the most memorable comeback in the fucking history of sports, right?
Yep.
And I says to my boy, we got to do a Red Sox piece. They're about to break the curse. It's been 86 years. We'll do it at Sullivan Station. It's the abandoned side of the Orange Line. And we go to Home Depot to steal some paint. And we're with a third party, I don't want to say friend, but this kid. And
Why, you have to pay for things at Home Depot?
Yeah.
I thought it was
yeah.
just...
That's,
I thought it was
yeah.
donated.
Boosting was a big
was a
part of
nonprofit.
something that was tough to change,
Yeah.
right? With getting clean. But we go there to take the paint. And the quick version of the story is me and my buddy, we get away, we jock a bunch of paint. The third kid that we're with, we see him get henned up by the secret shoppers, which he didn't want to listen. I go, those dudes are cops. If you boost, you fucking know you can sniff them
Come
in
on.
aisle 7 when
Yeah.
you're in aisle 5.
Yeah.
More of the story is we got out of the store with all this paint.
Yeah.
We drop it in the bushes. We go to Barnes & Nobles. The cops show up. I don't know about you guys, but if I do not have what I stole on me, I become borderline cocky.
Yeah. Right, absolutely.
The cop rolls up to us, and my buddy's about as close as Devin is. I have a book in my hand. Cop rolls up. Oh, you guys can read? And I was like bothered that he said that, you know?
Yeah.
And he's fucking with us like, hey, we hemmed up your buddy at Home Depot. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. They're like, you're not with blah, blah, blah. I was like, no. So they're kind of pissed. They search me, and I'll never forget this. As he's searching me, I realize I don't have drugs. I don't even have money on me. I don't even have my wallet. But I have a bag of caps that you put the nozzles on. Cop searches me. First they're thinking drugs, because when it's rolled up. He goes, the fuck is this? I go, nozzles for spray paint. He goes, oh, for the paint that you were going to buy with no money? And I go, you can't window shop? Like you can't, I realize he don't got me.
Yeah, right.
They have to let us go. They're pissed. They let us go. Me and him get our way back to his house, drinking, even though I'm in a sober house. I'm admitting that's fucked up. I go, bro, all that fucking paint. We got to go check it. So now we're buzzed, right? I have to add, also, the Red Sox are only up. They're up 2-0. They're up 2-0 in the World Series. So they have not won the World Series yet. We drive to this location. All the paint is there that we stashed, right, before the cops fucked with us. All red, white, and blue paint. Gather it up. Wait for the train to stop running. On the Orange Line, it's not 24 hours. So I think it was about 1 a.m. We do this piece. We pull it off. It says Boston, Red Sox. This is one of the coolest things, too, is on the spot, I go, dude, take the Red Sox logo, right? The Red Sox logo is the two socks like this.
Yeah.
I go and stretch it to make the X. So we took the Red Sox logo and separated to make an X, and I did the O for Boston as the baseball. And I wrote Nice Victory Socks. That was like our little graffiti crew back then, was NVS.
Yeah.
When you say it quick, it sounds like you're envious.
Yeah, right.
But I wrote Nice Victory Socks. Here's the dopest part about this story. We pull it off. As you know, they win the World Series. And what happens after you win a World Series? Fucking parade. We were on the train with thousands and thousands of people and showing them. Everyone's wearing Red Sox gear the day of the parade. And it was raining that day, if you remember. And we're showing all these people. That piece is still there to this day.
Really?
And this is another little gem that's cool that a lot of people don't know. I mean, if you're from the area or into graffiti or from Somerville,
Right.
Boston area, take the train, you kind of know this. They have erased, years ago, they had erased all the graffiti previously up until that and left it. That told me that they liked the piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now a lot of that stuff has still been there since about 06 or whatever. When I come down from New Hampshire now to go to Celtics games, I always park at Sullivan.
Yeah.
To reminisce, and I take my little journey in, Sullivan Community College. I get off at North Station, and I reminisce, and I still see some of the stuff that I did back then.
That's really cool.
That is still up. But yeah, so that piece is still there for 21
awesome.
years. A lot of people don't know that. Maybe people have seen it on the train, didn't know.
It's like a look into your youth.
Yeah, that's fucking sick, dude. That's an amazing.
It's very, very faded, but it is cool to know that, damn, 21 years, that's been there, faded. The history. I did do one in 07 too, but that's gone. I did do one in 08. This is another cool story. So the Celtics win. The night they win, I get a call from a friend. Hey, I'm like, what up? everyone's celebrating in my living room still. And I was in recovery back then too. So everyone, no one's drinking. All people I know from meetings. And what's up? I think we should do a Celtics piece. And I literally go, I'll never forget this. I go, I'm down. I go, but I don't really have much green paint and black paint. It's Celtics piece. Yeah. He goes, I got it. He fucking drives, picks me up. So for a few years, the Celtics piece was next to that Red Sox piece for years, and then some shit happened, and graffiti's not permanent.
Yeah.
So if something lasts 21 years, that's respect.
Absolutely.
It happens with the Celtic. Maybe they weren't a Celtics fan, but that got kind of scribbled and tagged. That's gone, but the Red Sox piece is still there, faded, and that's part of Boston history.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's why I like too, Jay, because you do the, people don't know, like you do all custom work, right? You do you could do like something small on a canvas, you could do a fucking whole wall, you could do a whole fucking train, you could do sports, you could do fucking, I actually like you were saying, man, like it for me it's cool to be like, I'm going to Brothers Pizza with my daughters and my mom and be like, oh, a friend of mine in recovery, right? Like did that piece, and like that's like an amazing thing to like be able to say, right? Not like, oh yeah, like an acquaintance of mine fucking robbed me here, like, you know what I mean? Like it's all like good memories, dude, you know what I mean? And like good stuff that like, you want to be able to like share these moments and memories with people. And what I was getting at is like, you do the hip hop stuff, the sports stuff, the recovery stuff, and it's all awesome. I know you're big into hip hop and stuff.
I wanted to ask you, not to cut you off there, but I know that something maybe you didn't think of, but what'd you think of recently with Benzino, right? No, like, did you see that thing when he came off? He embarrassed himself,
Yeah.
That was offensive to me because this is my strong.
No. Tell me how you feel about it, because like that kid, I love the way that kid handled it. Right? I don't know him. I know him just, but I followed him like based on like him, like in a couple comments I made. You know what I mean? When he said like, y'all or something. I'm like, listen, you know what I mean? It's almost like, come on, man. You know what I mean? Like. It's 2025, you fucking donkey. You know what I mean?
Well, one, I'm gonna.
Dev loves when I say donkey. Too.
Yeah, one, I'll start off with the sarcastic version. Is one, don't hate all white boys because one sunned you years ago.
Yeah.
That's just first. Let's, as a hip hop fan, let's fucking really just
Yes.
call it what it is. A lot of people want to shit on Eminem.
Yeah.
Because he's white. When you have some real, actual lyricists, people in hip hop that hold serious weight that say, regardless of his race, he's one of the best to ever do it.
50 Cent he said that same thing.
And that's just a fact. The other part of, and this is just my experience, because like I grew up like in breakdancing. I got a lot of shit as a kid because my friends were black, white, Spanish. I told you, I grew up on Section 8 welfare. Yeah. So I had a very diverse upbringing with all these areas. I got made fun of a lot, like, oh, you think you're black for being into this shit. I like breakdancing. Yeah. To me, rap is something you do. Hip hop is something you live.
Yeah.
Hip hop was also created with the 5 elements of hip hop that people like Benzino you never hear talk about. Now, here's the thing. I know about him in Almighty RSO.
Yes.
A lot of people know of what happened with Paul Pierce and and that shit back in the day. Yeah. And I'm not taking his credit away from being an actual guy that was involved in rap and some real street shit.
Yeah.
Hip hop is not that. Yeah. Hip hop was created rapping, breakdancing, DJing, right? Beatboxing, if you want to get technical, graffiti, right? And it was a culture that, yes, hip hop was created with black and Spanish people. Let's be real. It's fucking worldwide now. Yeah. And it was like this loving aspect. It was also this battling aspect that I come up with. You wanted to be the best graffiti writer back in the day? You had to prove it. Bro, I've gotten into fights. We've had cross-out wars, right? There was DJ battles back in the day. I used to go to the Strand Theater. So for him to be like, you're a hip hop fan and talk shit to these kids, right? And he was definitely trying to come at them like because they were white.
Of course, yeah.
Here's the other thing.
that was embarrassing.
I just think it was a cheesy take.
Yeah.
I don't know those guys personally. I don't know if that angle was taken on some like clickbait shit because it went viral and it's like blowing up, and I get that. But yeah, there's mad people that might be a hip hop fan and that doesn't take their credibility because you have a couple white boys that are into hip hop. Here's the other thing that's cool. I see the background of their podcast, and rest in peace, Sense. He was a graffiti writer.
Yeah.
They have some of his artwork. I actually reached out to them and was like, "Yo, I see that you guys got Sense, R.I.P." And he's like, "You know it." And that was just me as a graffiti writer. I pay attention to everything.
Yeah.
So I seen that stuff, and you know, it was offensive. I felt like he was almost talking to me, and I guess that I guess that's almost like egotistical to because I wasn't there. But as a white boy, okay, that fucking grew up liking hip hop, I'm a graffiti writer, which is one of the elements of hip hop. It's one of the only elements that's fucking illegal.
Yeah.
To get my credibility of where I am as an artist and a graffiti writer, I've put a lot of dedication and sacrifice. I've sacrificed relationships in the past to go out doing fucking pieces at night where they're like, dude, you're fucking being an idiot. And literally, selfishly, it ended up ruining a relationship. Yeah. And I grew up breakdancing, or at least trying to. I never really succeeded too much at that, but I did it. Dabbled with DJing, Rap is something you do. Hip hop is something you live.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It comes down to how you dress.
Well, even when he said, when he said I am hip hop, and I was laughing at myself. I'm like, dude, I grew up in Charleston, white Irish Catholic. You know what I mean? I didn't grow up around black people. You know, and I spent time with them when I got when I went away and stuff. There was that's the one thing. It's like I laughed to myself. It's like you know, hip hop. It's like there was. You know, it was cliquey like where I grew up, you know, like the Rolling Stones, the Cranberries, you know, it was like basically this is what we listened to. And like, I grew up, you know, U2 and that was all well and good. But like, I remember, you know, I had family from out of town and like, you know, in Medford. But I always took a liking to like to rap. And like, I liked like the Nas, I liked the Jadakiss. I like that hearing the story, Eminem, like, and now you have it with a beat. It was like, there was nothing better. It's just like translating. Like,
who was some of your favorites, Jay?
I mean, my all-time favorite's Biggie.
Yeah.
It's and you have to realize the time period. Like, so Biggie died in 1997. I was 17. I'd been listening to hip-hop since about 91. Naughty by Nature is the first tape I ever got.
Yeah.
I was in
Naughty
5th
by
grade.
Nature, baby.
Naughty by Nature. And, you know, like you said.
Everything's going to be all right.
The storytelling. Yeah, me too. The storytelling, I had so much freedom back then. It's always going to, for me, when I tell these stories, it's always going to go back to the graffiti because that's what I've been doing pretty much my whole life, is that was the soundtrack to my life. I took the bus and train a lot as a kid. We had a lot of freedom. So you had a Walkman back then, cassette tape. And sometimes you only had one tape. Yeah. So I would learn those words. And, you know, that's why I relate when 8 Mile came out and you're showing Eminem throughout the movie. You know, it's only playing the beat. Yeah. And he's trying to write that story. Yeah. He's trying to write those lyrics and he's on the bus. And I relate with that. And, you know, Nas, like you said, Jay-Z, Mobb Deep, Wu-Tang, which is I have a Wu-Tang tattoo. Yeah. I'm really into Wu-Tang because to me, that music just spoke to me. Yes, some of it I couldn't relate to, but some I could.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's funny, you guys mentioned Charlestown. It's like, I didn't live there, but I got high there, and I always took the train for the most part there. Yes, we took some cars if we had them at the time, but it was always taking the train to Charlestown, get off. And that square mile, I spent a lot of time getting high. Then I also, in recovery, played in the Charlestown League in softball years later, like you were saying, sports, which was a big part of my, you know, it's been sports, graffiti, hip hop. Yeah. You know, it's like, what are you into that gives you purpose, you know? And music and the art has always been there.
And all of that, I feel like going back to what you said, it's all people, it's all relatable. It's not just, you know, people can relate to it, and it affects people, you know, in a positive way, you know.
Yeah. I guess the better question to ask is, who do you like that's like new or upcoming, or even like, you know, newer generation for rap, for hip hop?
It's tough because
it's very tough.
A lot of the newer stuff, I can be honest with you, there's some stuff I'll like. It's literally based off the production. Yeah. Like there's not really anyone spitting where. I'll give you an example. I know you'll relate if you like old school hip hop, well, like what we came up on, because we're closer in age than obviously me and you. Yeah. The era that I came up in, I would listen to music and you got the stank face, and I'd be like, right? Yeah. And now the production's off the hook, but some of these motherfuckers ain't saying shit. Yeah. They're not saying. It's very catchy. Yeah. But we were talking about Millie's earlier. Yeah. Very lyrical. Yeah. Very lyrical. Yeah. But as far as I guess you could consider Joyner Lucas newer. He's been out for a bit now. Joyner's definitely newer, though. Yeah. I mean, there's actually not many, and even Eminem said this, which his word means a lot, obviously, in rapping and hip-hop. One of the best lyricists. J. Cole. Yeah. Yeah, J. Technically Cole, not newer. But to me, I guess, because it's like my go-to is like Wu-Tang, Mobb Deep, Jay-Z, Nas. And I can get into some underground shit. Like I was like really into hip hop as a kid, so like I could say some stuff now. You might be like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, we had
we just had a guy on from from New York. He's in recovery, and he actually.
Yeah, you get along good with him.
Yeah.
But
Good
he's
kid.
been
underground
doing under that scene,
rap.
in that scene. Yeah.
Yep.
But the newest stuff doesn't really do it for me as much.
Yeah.
It's more like catchier. You know what I mean? But Millie's probably. I mean, he's been around for a bit and represents Boston. I know he's from Cambridge, but
Well, even that, like, not to beat a dead horse, but it's like, I am hip. It's like, stop playing. You know what I mean? Like this dude, like, your hip hop Benzino, like, you know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. You know what I mean? Like, this kid's not hip hop. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I know the whole Benzino thing, right? He was the one that started the Source.
He had a business partner.
Yeah.
And,
people trying to.
We're going way back to when they were giving out mics, though, right? Because then it was like bullshit. It's like I think Illmatic's one of the only albums to get 5 mics.
Yeah.
Reasonable Doubt, 100%, in my opinion, along with all kinds of people that are probably gonna watch this or that are on the internet or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a fucking classic album.
Yeah.
But they got a lot of shit for not giving out. 5 mics was hard to earn. Yeah. But going back to that, a big part of the Source when I was a kid was there was a graffiti section. And that's one of the reasons why I loved getting that mag in the back. Yeah. So they had Tats Crew. That was like part of it. So it used to be TAT Crew. It's out of the Bronx.
Yeah.
Bio, Nicer, BG. And then they linked up with Fat Joe, which a lot of people don't know. Fat Joe's actually a graffiti writer. He writes crack.
Shit, huh?
Yep. He's still actually painting. Shout out to 004 in Miami. It's a store, Buddy E. He's always been solid. Anytime I'm in Miami, he's always giving deals. He's let me give spots to paint. Yeah. He's linked up with them. Fat Joe, he literally is still down there painting in Miami. He'll pop out and do graffiti.
Yeah, I fuck with Fat Joe.
I love Fat Joe.
Squad. Yeah, I told you I was with some of those dudes.
Yeah.
That's why I fuck with them. When Lean Back came out, bro, we were in the feds. The BET TV, forget about
Plus,
it.
that was like 04.
Yeah.
I've always been a Fat Joe fan, and especially as a kid. From the Bronx, and as a kid, my aunt lived in New York.
Yeah.
So we would go out there for these family trips, and I'll never forget. My aunt will still bring it up to this day. I was about 15 years old. We go out there, and say we're there for 5 days. One of the days, she'd ask me and my brother, like, anything you guys want to do? One of the first times I can remember her saying that to me. Say Sunday. Jay, anything you want to do? Take me to the Bronx. My aunt's like this.
Yes, the boogie down.
This is dead serious. Because I had magazines back then.
Yeah.
No social media, right?
Yep.
The internet's not even out then, right? Take me to the Bronx. I want to take pictures of graffiti. Where in the Bronx? I don't know. I know the South Bronx. She was hesitant, like, you want me to take you to the Bronx?
Yeah.
And she did. My godmother, and I always give shout out to my Aunt Debbie, because as a 15-year-old kid who'd been dabbling with tagging, that is the age where I started to understand, like I told you, because of magazines and videos, I understand what it was. Because I'm a firm believer in anything you're going to do in life, know the fucking history of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're going to be a boxer? You better know who the fucking goats are.
Yeah, right.
You want to do MMA? You better know who the fucking goats are.
Yeah.
You want to be a DJ? So anyways, I knew my history to a certain extent from those magazines. I studied them. Was never really good in school because I didn't like the content they were teaching me. Now when it comes to recovery or graffiti or hip hop, I fucking remembered lyrics, crews they were in, right? She takes me. I still have these pictures to this day. I have some photo. I've been documenting graffiti pretty much my whole fucking life. Yeah. And this book is the Bronx, Connecticut, and Boston, and it's all from the mid-'90s. Yeah. And I got to finally see some of these pieces that I had only seen in magazines. Yeah. The reason why I thank her and am so appreciative of that upbringing is that was the stuff that was fueling this little boy with a fucking dream.
Yeah.
And it expanded to a bunch of different stuff. And I'm still, I told you at 14 years old, I said, I'm going to be a famous graffiti writer. Depending on who you ask, I've accomplished that goal. 100%. And I'm still trying to do it on a grander scale. And that's the best part about recovery is that I come from this fucked up background where I was depressed, filled with anxiety. Yeah. And I can tell you that fear is the one word that could sum up my childhood. Yeah. And I would not admit that years ago. Yeah. And I'll say that passionately now because it is the truth. And that owning the fear and owning that that's what I come from and working through. That's why when we joking about when someone says must be nice, I almost get triggered. Yeah. Oh, must be nice, motherfucker. You know where we come from? To get to this or to be the confident man to walk into a room and look people in the eyes, shake their hand. Yeah. Right? Is that I'm grateful for all of that and these journeys and these experiences of seeing like a mural. Now I do those size murals. Here's the best part. Some of those names I documented that are in those books from when I was 14, 15, even as early as 13, a lot of those guys, I'm now on a level where I've painted with them, and some of those guys are my friends.
Yeah.
Like they always say, you know, don't stop until your idols become your rivals. I'm the opposite. Don't stop until your idols become your boys.
Yeah.
So a lot of people I looked up to that I would literally on some fanboy shit. Oh, if I ever got to meet them, I could text them right now.
Yeah.
Well, if you stay true to you, like I said, if you do this organically, it's gonna go where it's supposed to.
Absolutely, it's gonna manifest the way it's.
Because it's already affected who the fuck watches now.
Yeah.
There's just someone out there that hasn't seen it for the first time.
Of course. And I think that's why, like, the unfiltered thing and, like, none of this is, you know, I think people are watching. If you're watching, you fucking know this. But none of this is staged, bro. It's just real, genuine, authentic conversations. Like, you know what I mean? We don't act any different when we're at fucking Dunkin' Donuts, dude. Like, what you see is what you get. And, yeah, man, I'm super, super happy you came on, dude. Super happy. Where do you what's the website the merch is on the streets?
So the funny thing with that is I actually got rid of the merch.
Okay.
As far as people getting it online.
Yeah.
Because the artwork started to actually take off.
Yeah.
Now what I do is I'll drop a couple times a year.
Yeah.
And I'm probably gonna do another Shopify or something like that.
Yeah.
Because there's really not money. I almost do it more because I like people to just wear my stuff.
Yes.
And they like the name, the whole Street Smart.
Yeah.
And I came up with a meaning a couple years ago. It was, well, first I'll say why that even came about. I never was good in school. You know, it was actually a struggle a lot. And it's more because I was preoccupied on what's going to go on at home. Who's going to be there pretending to be my dad? Is my mom awake? Is she hungover? All that. And my mom would always say I'd get in trouble in school and stuff. And she'd defend. And I don't want to sit here and act like it's like I'm bashing my mom. She's done the best somewhat. I'm grateful I got the spark to want to recover and get better. Some people don't ever get that desperation. But she'd say, my son's not book smart, he's street smart. And in 2005, I was 25 years old. I had a couple cases out of 2 different cities. And I knew that one was, if I didn't go to treatment, I'm getting locked up. And it's kind of it's a no-brainer. You do time, fucking halfway house. And I'm sitting there and I said, I want to do T-shirts. I want to do T-shirts. Street Smart. And it just clicked. And I was like, it's such a catchy name. Of course. Right? It is. And it did. It started off as T-shirts. And I'll never forget, this is where the recovery piece and mindset, and I'm real big on building mindset. Because prior to that, 23, 24 years old, I thought, if I could just get away from heroin, I got to stop shooting heroin in the fucking Charlestown projects.
Everything will fall into place.
Getting rolled up on by housing authority or fucking having a car I'm not supposed to with the wrong plates on, whatever the fuck it is. It's more than just getting off the drugs, because I'd get off the drugs and I'd realize my thinking and perception was still fucked up. Actually worse. So now I'm 25 years old. I'm in fucking Tewksbury Holden. It's 80 guys back then. And I'm looking around. They hit me with the 1 in 37 addicts makes it. Now, fentanyl wasn't around back then, so I'm assuming those numbers are way different now. I looked around, I remember going, there's 80 guys in here, 1 in 37, 37 and 30s. I wonder who the other guy's going to be. And I know that might be looked at as cocky, but I look at it as confident. That was the first time I ever put some time together. From 2005, I stayed clean. And a big part of doing that was I started doing the shirts. I started getting the name out there, stickers. I started doing my graffiti, but it started evolving more into art, right? I was more of a graffiti writer before, meaning I just tagged. Like what you see on the shirt, It Was All a Dream, that's just like a hand style. And I started elevating it. And then I started seeing that people liked it. And shout out to Master Millions and Roy Barbosa. They both worked for Jim in 94.5 back then. And I just saved these pictures early, and I'll show you guys after we're done recording. At 27 years old, I had 2 years clean. Street Smart started rolling, started moving. I'd bring a box. This is no social media back then. I'd bring a box of hoodies and T-shirts, and they'd sell out in 4 days.
Really?
Just because one, people wanted to support, and others, they were like, this is dope, Street Smart, right? If we come from a certain background, too, they're like, I like that name. I'm Street Smart. I go, yeah, you are. Here you go.
Represents, of course.
And they said, DJ Khaled's coming to the studio. If you can get him, if you can get a 3X made, you can meet him and give it to him. I'm in Florida when I get this call on vacation. I'll never forget this. And I told my girl at the time, I'm like, we're flying home tomorrow. They're saying the next day This is a fucked up story, meaning in like time management. Land at Logan. I have my boy make a 1-of-1 shirt. Shout out to my boy Just, who was printing my stuff back then. I go, this is for DJ Khaled. He prints the shirt. Land at Logan. A friend drives us. I get my car and I drive all the way to Westport, Mass. It's a fucking hour and 10-minute drive just to pick up one shirt. To drive back home, sleep, go the next day, cut hair all day, and then I get to go to the studio. And I'm forever grateful because I got to meet DJ Khaled, hand him a shirt. Who knows if he ever fucking wore it. The point is...
God did.
That's
You're funny, Joe.
Yo, there's 2 gems today where he's come in where it was like very organically hilarious. I gave him that. I took a picture, and the rest is history, man. It was just basically what I'm sharing as a fucking kid in my mid-20s with a goal.
Yep.
And shout out to them for doing that. Then they let me meet Nina Sky. I got to do clothing for them. And it went from clothing to then I was like, you know what? Street Smart is also the name of when I go to speak somewhere. Right? Because I say it's an education no one's willing to pay for.
Yeah.
But it's priceless once you obtain it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And with that too, a lot of people want to. They don't want what comes with it, right? But they want to hang on to that. Like it's like you can't have it both ways.
Well, here's the thing. The reason why it's called Street Smart, and I joke with guys in group, they'll try to come at me on some shit, and I go, bro, it's called Street Smart for a reason. We're not out here glorifying the street.
Yeah.
The idea, if you've come from struggle,
yeah,
like me coming up the way that I did, where I didn't have a dad around, I told you I got picked on, then started dabbling with drugs, in and out of the system, all this shit.
Yeah.
It was about, I've always known that I shouldn't be doing that, right? I guess this is something I want to leave too. I've always known right from wrong here. It's this motherfucker that's taking work, right? So, and getting those to match is still a battle at 45. It really is. This and this.
I like what you said about the audio matching the visual. That's beautiful.
Well, because it's big, and sometimes it's not the case. Yeah. I didn't come in here to float and talk to y'all. Meaning, I got no wings.
I've been told that before.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I love the saying. I'm street smart, so look both ways before you cross me.
Yeah.
That's fire.
Yeah. It's like I'm forever grateful because I guess what my whole thing with the meaning behind it and the name and the brand is that a lot of people relate with it, and I try to get people to relate with it, even that came from the sticks.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't have
really
to actually.
Is a mindset, you know what I mean?
Well, that's my point. Is like I did really grow up. Like most of my story is actual street shit.
Right.
I'm a graffiti writer.
Yeah.
If you go to any bad neighborhood in this country, right? Any bad neighborhood, what's there?
Graffiti.
Drugs and graffiti.
Yeah.
You know you're in a bad neighborhood if you see a lot of graffiti. Not the murals, a lot of graffiti. The throws, the bubble letters, all that shit. And I can say that I'm grateful that I've been able to paint in numerous places throughout this country, even in Canada. Wow. And a kid with a dream with a can in my hand has been in magazines. I've got to do collabs with Porsche, Acura. Wow. You know, I've been in magazines. I've done some of those magazines that I looked up to.
Yep.
Some of those events that I'd see online. I St. Catherine Street in Canada. I got invited up there to paint back in 06. You know, like your passion can take you many places in life. And my greatest I think accomplishment is well, one, being a dad. You know, I'm engaged, I'm a dad, I own a house, all these things that if people said before, inside you're kind of a little jealous a little bit. At least I'm speaking for me. Like I'd want those things and was like,
how do I get them?
How do I get them?
Where do I start?
Why am I bothered? I'm not really putting the work in. So I'm real big on saying, you know, also don't be resentful for results that people are getting for work you're not doing. And I had to tell myself that. So the reason why that's so important and why I like sharing that saying is because I used to not be able to back that up.
Yeah.
I'd be resentful for something. Why is that bothering me? Because I really want it and I know I'm not doing it.
Right.
I'm procrastinating. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it. Fuck that. We're going to do it today, you know?
Yeah.
That's why I work out every day. I eat.
It really is like the routine, the discipline, the consistency, like those words, like consistency, you know? That's what we were told, like even with this thing, you know?
Yeah.
Is just keep it, you know, no matter what, just keep
going,
keep putting it out, and even
consistent.
to have you on today, you know, I certainly, you know, it goes bigger, it's deeper than just sitting here and like, you know, obviously we convey the message and whatnot, but I needed to hear that, you know.
Me too, absolutely. How long you been clean, Jay?
8 years.
Wow, good for you, man.
Yeah, I got clean again in 2016, which was a tough battle.
Yep.
And One, I want to thank you guys. I know I said it in the beginning, but I do want to say it again. I really appreciate doing things like this because it's a greater purpose.
Yes.
And we get something out of it. I got something out of it. I'm speaking for myself.
100%.
Absolutely.
These type of things, to me, after, food tastes better. Going to see my wife and my son after feels better.
I know I'm going to have a good night after this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I've also shared some stuff too that I've never fucking said online because I know this is then going to be out there, which is cool. And like I said, like statute of limitation, these stories are so old that I'm like, who gives a fuck?
Well,
you need to be heard.
Level up and like hear someone, sit here and like, we can laugh, we can joke, and like, there's a time to get serious or whatnot. We try to keep it light as much as we can, but at the same time, just to have someone sit there and like, our old mentality would be like, like don't like it's like all right, it's not like to brag about something. It's like that's where it was so distorted. Where it's like, wait a minute, dude. If I've earned the right, you know what I mean? Like, and I want my if I am going to talk about it, I want it to I have to believe it. You know what I mean? And like I said, it's not a flex that like going to like all that stuff. It's nothing you should be embarrassed about. But this is what it is. And now how do we get to the next level? So we have guys like you on, right? That say like, not only do we recover, can we recover, right? Like you can not only laugh and have fun, like without like being without fucking killing yourself, slowly, but on top of that, you can actually grow and like you can fucking shoot for the stars, whatever you want to do. You know what I mean?
You never thought were possible.
Which for us, I feel like it's something that I think that's what alcohol and drugs do. Is just kind of just. You keep it down, and then when you put them down, it's like, wait, how far have you?
How do I change this self-limiting mindset where I'm fucking now? I'm fucking.
Well, because the battle, drugs and alcohol, the tricky thing with that is, and I'm sure you guys relate, is for a while I thought you just got to put this down, and yes, your life can almost get better accidentally to a certain extent. Yeah. And I always say, materialistically, you can get that type of shit on accident. I've been saying that for years. Yeah. First time I ever got clean, I wanted a new fitted, white tees. Yeah. This chain back, I've had this chain since I graduated barber school that my aunt got me. Oh, shit. Right? White gold, diamonds. I've pawned this thing many times for a 40 bag of dope, which is fucking embarrassing. Wow. That guy's mouth was watering every time I walked in, right? Materialistically, we can get shit accidentally. You get off drugs and alcohol, you'll have some extra money. Absolutely. The stuff we will not get accidentally, that is hard work, is integrity, to be honest, a good, a body. You want to be in shape. Right. Mentally, spiritually, physically, right? All that stuff is so hard, especially for guys like us. We're wired a certain way, but the beautiful part about the hard work is it rewires that fucked up thinking to be a little more positive. Yeah. That's the beautiful part about this. I strongly say that recovery is an evolution of self that we do with others. Absolutely. Active addiction, Devin can do by himself. Joe can do by himself. I can do that by myself. Active addiction, you need the plug or whatever you're copping from. But to get better, you can't get better by yourself. Right. It's fucking humanly impossible because we run the most manipulative shit.
Nor do I want to.
And it's not fun. I like to look to the left and right? That's why, leveling up, I'm real big on also this. It's not bragging if you've done it.
Absolutely.
So when you're around guys and you share something, right? And maybe if you didn't do it, you genuinely like, oh, that's cool.
That's what I meant. When I said it is like to have someone sit there and it's like, you don't have to. You're not here selling anyone a fucking. You're speaking your truth, right? And like to know that, right? It reciprocate. You feel it. I feel it. You know what I mean? That energy, like the positive energy, right? This isn't like good, bad. Good, bad, or ugly. Fucking. It's whether someone watches or whatever. Hopefully you do. You know what I mean? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's like you. It's good. I like being around positive people. That's one thing that I feel the negative energy, and there's a lot of that out there. But we try to keep it positive. Yeah. You want to have Jay sign that shit?
Yeah. We should have him draw something.
This?
Yeah. He's gonna draw something for us.
I'll Venmo him for fucking drawing something.
No. Don't. Devin has Cash App, so I'm playing that.
Yeah, I don't like Cash App's like the ghetto version.
Devin.
That's awesome. That was a great episode, bro.
I
think that went really well. It's awesome.
Street Smart J-Mac.
Street Smart J-Mac.
$150.
Yeah. My friend,
That's
thank
awesome.
you, brother. It was a pleasure meeting you.
You too, man.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate
Any last words?
No, it's been a great episode 14. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. Fucking peace out.
Episode 14. Tune in. Lace up or lay down. We got the Backstah here. They're making noise. So tune in. Thanks, guys. Peace.
Peace.